All right, Mr. Chair, I will pass it along to you.
All right, thank you, Alex. Welcome to the Lyon Township Planning Commission meeting for Monday, September 14th, 2020. Please join us all in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the
of the United States of America
and to the
and
republic
republic
for
for which it stands,
one nation
one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with
with liberty
liberty and justice for all.
All right. Okay, very good. Kelly, if you take roll, please.
Sure. Patricia Carconi,
Here.
Jim Chuck,
Here.
Michael Conflitti,
Here.
Stefan Hoffman,
Yep.
Ron Pennington,
Here.
Kurt Radke,
Here.
Carl Town.
Here,
All right, very good. Approval of tonight's agenda.
Motion to approve as submitted.
Motion by Mr. Chuck,
I'll support Patricia Carconi.
support. All those in favor?
aye,
Aye.
Oppose?
I think you have to call it by roll call.
We do. You are correct. Kelly,
Kurt Radke,
Yes.
Carl Town,
yes,
Ron Pennington,
Yes.
Patricia Carconi,
Yes.
Stefan Hoffman,
Yes.
Michael Conflitti,
yes.
Jim Chuck.
Yes.
Approval of consent agenda for the August 24th, 2020 minutes.
make a motion to approve. This is Carl.
I
Jim Chuck.
support. This is Kurt.
Or Kurt.
Okay, we have a motion. We have support. Any other comments? Okay, Kelly, if you take roll.
Kurt Radke,
Yes.
Patricia Carconi,
Yes.
Carl Town,
Yes,
Jim Chuck,
Yes.
Ron Pennington, Stefan Hoffman,
Yes.
Michael Conflitti.
Yes. Okay, Alex, this is where we ask the public if there's any comments, anything that's not on the agenda tonight.
So we have one caller waiting. I will let them in right now for you.
Okay.
Hey, caller, if you can press *9 to raise your hand, and then we'll have you unmute. And then *6 to unmute on your end.
Hi there, it's Allie and Todd Zetweiler calling in.
Very good. If you give your address, please.
Sure, it's 120 York Street, apartment 306, and that's in Jersey City, New Jersey 07302.
All right. Go ahead. Did you have comments or questions?
Oh no, we're just on for the venue
You are. Okay.
piece of the event barn, yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, good. We know you're there. Stay tuned. Yeah. All right, back to us. We don't have any DDA. So here, who's here tonight? Is Brian here? Or
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry?
Yes, it's Brian this evening.
Okay. Okay. I just don't see you out there. Okay. Brian, if you start us off on AP 20-04 Event Barn Zoning Ordinance Text Amendment.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a discussion in our last meeting, and I took some direction back regarding a couple topics on our event facility consideration of a new special land use in the R10 district. A couple things that we talked about specifically were a number of events. And so you'll see under our draft language or our discussion language that we are proposing no limit to the number of small events during the week. And large events of which are 50 or more people would be limited to one a day on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We also worked on some hours of operation. Monday through Thursday, we're suggesting 8 to 10, Friday 8 to 11, and then Sunday 8 to 6. And I know one of Carl's concerns or one of Carl's recommendations or hopes was that we would limit the number of events or limit events entirely on Sundays. Chris and I struggled with this a little bit, so I do want your feedback. But there are a fair number of events that I could foreseeably see on a Sunday, whether it's baby showers or things like that, that it would be beneficial to a business to have Sunday hours of operation. And so that's what we've proposed here. We've also included number 7, food and beverage prep and disposal, so that any application that comes in for such a facility, all of the operational amenities would be included. We would want the applicants to describe whether or not there's going to be a food prep kitchen inside, whether the facility itself would prepare food, or whether it would be strictly a catered facility, things like that. Hopping down to number 12 and 13, these are the other 2 considerations that we talked about. First being traffic impact analysis. We're suggesting that it may be required by the Planning Commission. And I want to note in the ordinance that we know that residential areas may be impacted by the traffic from such a use. And so we'd want an anticipated traffic route map. We would want to give you the opportunity to require an analysis. Everything that we could do to potentially minimize the amount of traffic or minimize the number of existing residential properties that could be impacted by traffic from such a facility. And then finally, site and event security. We talked about wanting to understand what types of security are going to be on site, both from a regular installed measure standpoint, be that fencing or gates or cameras, but also talking about event specific security, whether that's traffic control or a security staff, depending on the size of the event. So I have included that. I've kept it broad. Obviously, with a lot of these applications, we don't want to get into the minutia about where your camera is pointing and things like that, but we do want some consideration presented to the Planning Commission for security of the event. So that's where we're at. Again, I'll open it up to questions and direction from the Planning Commission. We'll see if we want to continue to move forward with this item.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Questions? Let's start. Carl, let's start at your end of the spectrum.
Okay. I'll first answer the question that Brian brought up about Sunday. I wasn't overly concerned about a small event on Sunday. I prefer that there wasn't any, but I think I'd be fine with, I mean, again, it's time sensitive because 6 o'clock in the wintertime, it's dark. And I don't know. But, you know, if it's 10 to 6, I'd be fine with that. I'd rather see it over at 4. The hours on the weekend would be fine. I don't necessarily disagree with the Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday unlimited small events. And I don't recall what the small event number was, but let's say
50.
it should have some 50. Yeah. I don't have an issue with that. But there's a lot of things to work out, and I'd like to hear from everybody else on this, to be honest with you, as far as I'd like to see our own kitchen there, because then we've got control over a sanitarian coming in and making sure that the state looks at all the licensing and everything. So I'd like to see have their own kitchen there. I am bullish on a security at the events. Obviously, if it's a 50-person baby shower, I'm okay with not having them. So we really do need to, like you said, the event specific. I'd like to hear from all the other commissioners on that. So, and I believe that, I think a route is important, but to be honest with you, I think that, that's an overreach with a traffic study on that. It is a special land use and it is per our view. So, I think something, in my opinion, something that could be brought up when it comes up for a special land use. When somebody actually comes in for a specific area, they give us a chance to look at it instead of broadly saying, do an impact study when they're on 30 or 35 or 40 acres and they're in, excuse the expression, BFE, you know? So that's about all I have to say. There's a few other things, but I honestly would like to hear from some of the other planning commissioners. So thank you.
Okay, thanks, Carl. Mr. Radke.
On the Sunday deal, I could go either way on that. For a wedding, a Sunday wedding, I know sometimes people have trouble getting halls, especially if it's a large wedding. You're limited sometimes, and if you wanted to do, but I could go with the Sunday, a wedding in the evening, expanding the hours, but I'm okay with, if the board feels, if we want to line up with Carl, the majority of us, I'm fine either way. I'm glad we're moving forward with this. Yeah, no issue with the I thought they said they were gonna have their own kitchen. The long-term plans were for them to have a chef, and wasn't that talked about?
I believe you're right, Kurt. That was their plans at least, and I'm sure we'll hear from the
So,
applicant. later.
Mr. Chair, can I interrupt here again? Writing these rules and regulations around one person of what they do. It's something that we're writing this in general. It's a general event, text amendment.
Good point, Carl.
So we
Good.
can't rely back to what they said they had. It's something that we have to set our sights on. What do we want in this event barn?
So
Okay,
Carl,
so remember that.
yeah. So Carl, are you saying if you feel strongly that we got to start out of the chute with a kitchen, and that's okay, because otherwise, if you have to wait a year or 2 or 5 years, or there can be delays, we probably should. If we need a kitchen for sanitation issues, that should be right up front. I'm okay with that.
Okay, that's all
Yeah.
I'm saying is that we need to
That's a good
decide
point.
ourselves, not around the.
Gotcha.
Okay, I'm out.
Let me see
That's
what
it?
else.
Kurt?
Yeah, everything else I'm good with.
Okay. All right. Mr. Pennington.
Yeah, I'm good with it too. I don't really have as strong of opinion about the kitchen. I think it'd be good if they did have one, but I don't really have a problem with catering food in either. As far as the hours go, I like the hours. I think that's a good kind of a compromise all the way around. I mean, small events, 50 people is not really that many. When my family gets together, there's 45 of us all together with the kids. So we do that every Sunday at my parents' house. So, I mean, I know what that's like. No, I think it looks good. I think you did what we asked. I think it looks good.
Very good. Mr. Hoffman?
I like all the letter McKenna put together. I think the hours are good, but I think that depending on where that 20 acres is, maybe those hours could go later. If there's no residential around, that would probably want to go later. I wouldn't have a problem with that, but that would be kind of a site specific. But I definitely think that if it's in more residential, you got to give the neighbors a break. Sunday, 6 o'clock seems okay. I wouldn't go later, by the time they clean up and all that, just give the neighbor, our 7 o'clock is like for construction workers and they're not even allowed to work on Sunday. So these, if it's in a residential area, I would say just give them a break and, cut out early. But other than that, I don't think the food issue, I mean, if they bring it in or make it, we don't have anything to do with that. It's regulated by everyone else but us. So I'm taking that off the table, Carl. That just seems like overreach. But, everything will be evaluated on all different levels. And if they want to do it, that's great. It'd be convenient, but it's expensive. It's very expensive to bring in a kitchen, a full-blown kitchen to cater hundreds of people. So if people want to, bring their own food or cater, that's fine by me. Yeah, 20 acres is huge. So there's a lot of parking, and the events can be divided, the banquets. I can see a great opportunity for this area with all the extra farmland. And I like the idea and I like the letter. So that's where I am.
Very good. I had a question. Well, small events. I see this quite often around the holidays. They'll have arts and craft shows. It might be a good venue for that. So you'd have 50 people there that are just working the show, then people coming. So I don't know if small events, we should have less than 50 people. As far as, this is for my own knowledge, I guess, or information. For venues like this, do they have to get if they bring in liquor just for that event, do they have to get a liquor license for one day? Or events like they don't need to bring any type of regulation in on that? Do you know, Brian?
I don't know the specifics on that. Lisa just unmuted. She may.
Yeah, typically if you're selling liquor, you need some kind of a liquor license. So I think they would have to apply for something.
But if not selling, if they're just bringing it in, if it's a wedding and they're just bringing in the liquor for that wedding.
Well, I don't know the exact regulations on that, but typically if there's
Okay.
going to be liquor at a venue, there has to be some kind of permit allowing it.
Okay. And then, the kitchen, it seems like it'd be mostly prep work. So refrigerator, sink, maybe microwave. I don't think they need deep fryers in a full-blown kitchen and something like this, but anyway, Mr. Chuck.
Yeah, I'd like to first start by saying, yeah, Brian, I thought you did a real nice job framing everything up. So I appreciate that. I really have no concerns other than one. If I read that correctly, Brian, the small events were limited to one on a Saturday. Is that correct?
No, the way I have it written, there would not be a limit to the number of small events.
Okay, then obviously I misread it because I was thinking, gee, if you wanted to have something from 11 to 3 and then clear it out and then have something from 5 to 10. I guess I misread that. So no, I thought you did a good job. And yeah, as far as the kitchen and the prep work, I think Mr. Hoffman kind of hit it on the head that's actually governed by other people and the cost involved. And, that's something that they might evolve to, but initially, if a caterer comes in, I believe the Department of Health checks it, just like when we have our kite festival, these one-day vendors. The Department of Health is there checking things out. So I kind of think that takes care of itself. But all in all, I thought it was put together well, and I'm comfortable with it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I interrupt real quick?
Please do.
When Mr. Pennington mentioned his family gets together and there's 45 people, the more I think about this, with thinking about our family, there's 11 kids. 50 people is that's not a lot of people. And if you're gonna have a shower, I mean, I'm just wondering if that should be bumped up a little bit. Are we gonna handcuff them by saying it's 50 when it should be 65, or that's still not a lot of people compared to a 300 or 400 person wedding, I guess. Just a thought. I don't know if anybody else had any concerns.
Well, I don't, to your point, Kurt, I guess if it exceeded 50, that would still be, they could still have the event. I guess it would limit it to one big event, but that would be the owners, they're still going to charge depending on how many people are there and what the event is. So I see what you're saying. It's valid, but I just don't know as though it becomes much of an issue. And Mr. Chairman, when you said, you brought up a good point about potential trade shows, if you will, and arts and crafts. I would view that as a large event because if there's 50 exhibitors, there's probably going to be, and hopefully 200 or 300 people coming through. So I would think would be determined by people and not necessarily by booths or vendors. That would be my thought process on it.
Okay, but then according to this, they'd be limited to weekend only.
Well,
Do we even need to put a number on that? A small event, large event? How about just the events? Why do we have to break it down from small to large?
Well, I'd say one of the main reasons is you've got to remember we're doing this in R10. It's primarily right. It's our agricultural residential district, so we want to be very respectful, or as respectful as we can be, of adjacent property owners, things like that. We have a pretty limited number of commercial uses in that district, and while we want our businesses to succeed, I would say if we were doing this, if we were sculpting these regulations for a commercial district, I'd absolutely not limit it. But given its location or potential location, keeping things fairly small during the week seems reasonable from my perspective.
So, Brian, I have a question. Then let's use arts and crafts as an example. The show kicks off on Saturday. They set up. The show concludes on Sunday by 6 o'clock. So then would head count be an issue? I mean, it's a continuation of the show, and as long as things are taken care of by 6 p.m. on Sunday, you follow what I'm saying? It would be a continuation of the Saturday show, because most of these shows, most of them are at least a 2-day event or a day and a half.
I understand what you're saying, but what I don't understand what your concern might be.
Oh, I don't have a concern. I mean,
Oh.
I guess they can come in. I'm just checking interpretation. So they could still have a 2-day show based on starting on Saturday, continuation on Sunday, concluding by 6 o'clock, regardless if there's 100 people or 200 or 50. That was, okay. You answered it. Thank you.
Mr. Chair? If I could just add
Oh, go ahead.
something, if
Sure.
I could just add something quickly. There has been some litigation over these event barns in agricultural districts. And I think what I've seen through the case law is that you have these event barn facilities in a rural area, and then the community grows up around it. And since this is in a R1 district, that's a very real possibility for the township. So I think that maybe is where Brian's coming from with the limitation on the size, is because eventually that community is going to grow up around this facility. And so I think you want to keep that in mind as you're discussing this. Along those lines, there has been a recent case issued earlier this year that we're evaluating just to make sure that the township's ordinance is in line with the case law. And we may be proposing some additional modifications to the ordinance, to even some definitional statements as this goes forward. So you may see some additional changes as you proceed with this.
Okay.
Lisa, can I ask, can you be a little specific? What relative to what the issues have been, or not at this point?
Noise, traffic, some of the same things you've been concerned about. It's really been primarily noise. That's the issue. And from what I've seen, like I said, it's event barns that were developed or were just kind of came to fruition in rural areas. And then, like I said, the community grows up around it, and suddenly you have homes next door, and the uses just aren't necessarily compatible anymore. So I think we want to be respectful of that. And I think that's what Brian's trying to do. what I've seen in the township's ordinance is that barn dances are allowed as a permitted use in the R1 ag district, and concerts are allowed as a special land use. And so we want to make sure as this moves forward that whatever regulations we're having and imposing on these event facilities makes sense with what's already in the ordinance. And if it doesn't, we need to maybe make some additional changes. So it really is a noise issue, traffic issue, things that you've already been discussing.
All right, thank you.
Patricia,
Okay, I spoke about this before, so I wanted all you guys, I'm glad you went first because I'm not supportive of this at all. And I'm just giving you my opinion. I'm not supporting it. I think that our community, I live next to Irwin Apple Orchard I've lived here 33 years. And before when they had the haunted barn, and I think if people don't realize how congested it is right next to a residential area, we used to hear the special event, and again, to me, I mean, it was okay for me because I still had kids and stuff, but not everybody likes that. But I felt too, the orchard was there, the haunted house was not there when I bought the property, my home. And I've told you, I've talked to Nancy Dominski. She's our insurance attorney, and she represents many municipalities. And I think you need very large acreage. I think it needs to be on a paved road. I think I wouldn't like this next to me or in the vicinity of me. And I think alcohol at weddings can turn very vastly. And, if it's, the township's paying to do chloriding, we pay 5 times a year. So if this facility is on a non-paved road, how is it fair to the people that live on that road when they're going to have many, many, many cars going down that road on a daily basis? We're not going to go back and keep paying to chloride the road. And so that's why I'm a really big believer that if it were to happen, it should be on a paved road, because that's kind of not fair. And I think you're putting a commercial, to me, this is a commercial business entwined into residential. And I'm just telling you, for me personally, I don't, it would have to be kind of like I said, off a main road and very large acreage, because you wouldn't want that by you. This isn't like Irwin's that's only open at the end of August and closes in November. I mean, traffic's horrible here. You know that. Everybody goes to Irwin's. I mean, but it's crazy in that fall period of time. It is. Lots of people, they throw a lot of trash.
Patty, can I ask you a question, please?
Sure.
Was Irwin's the haunted house, was that every day of the week or was that only on the weekend?
No, they had it was on the weekends. I can't remember if it was during
Friday and Saturday.
Maybe, yeah, I don't remember. But
Friday and Saturday was
still, look how close we live.
11.
I mean,
Till 11.
Yeah. I mean, you hear it. I mean, I had kids, but what happens if you had really little kids? You could hear them.
Yeah.
It was crazy. They used to park in our street. They used to park all in our street, all down my road back in the day. And they extended that parking lot, which I was thankful for. But, but at least they're on a paved road with a traffic light. I mean, you can get there and back, but if we had got all the complaints. We wanted to have our park on 11 Mile and Milford Road. And that would have been, we were going to pay to the entrance, and the people down there went crazy. They didn't even want that. It's a park. So, I mean, now you're talking about events with music and, people drinking, at our park, you wouldn't be drinking, or we're not promoting it because you're not supposed to have alcohol on township property. But I think you're just talking about, our township's really growing, and unless you find a really great place for it to be, I don't think it should be, but that's just me. I'm just one person. I think whoever the people are that are very interested in bringing that, I think it's a great idea, but It's just how I feel. I mean, we put up with the complaints. Everybody, we pass all these ordinances and then people at the township hall have to take care of it all. And I think we're kind of big.
Patty, another question. Is 20 acres enough?
I don't think it is.
You don't think, when you say
I
a
don't
lot of.
think it is. I don't think it is. I don't. I'm just 28. I mean, 20 acres was our township park. We had 60 acres, 40 was wetland and 20 was upland. I mean, if you look at, we laid it out. I worked on that park and that didn't even seem like enough property, to shield it from other people that are, residential. I mean, you guys got to think, this is again, you're allowing it every single day, and Friday and Saturday and Sunday. How would you, I'm just trying to protect the residents that are already here. I don't think I would like it. I just can't get my arms around it. I think that maybe somewhere out where there's lots of land and you're, again, off of a paved road, so you're not disturbing, gravel roads or non-paved roads, because we pay for those. And, I know on a lot of golf courses, like I know there's a beautiful barn up at a wedding barn off of Lake Charlevoix Country Club. So it's off of a paved road. There are some houses around there, but they're on very large lots and they're more around the golf course. This is right by the main road. I want to say 31 or 131. The barn's absolutely beautiful.
You're talking Castle Farms? Is that what you're talking?
Me?
Yeah. Castle Farms.
It's a beautiful barn. It's a wedding barn. And, but at least it's off of a paved road. You're kind of up north. There's very little, and I mean, Charlevoix can be very seasonal too. I mean, it's not like people are living there. Some people are living there every day, but a lot of people are seasonal up there. But I worry because we're so populated and we have all these subdivisions, and then we allow this, and I just worry about the ramifications. That's all. I'm not saying it's not a great idea. I love the idea, but I really worry about what we're doing to the people that are already here. So it's just how I mean, you guys can do what you want. I'm not a yes. I just can't be. This is not
Brian,
property and stuff. So
what would be the next
and,
step?
can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I know you guys are trying to limit the people, but who's going to police that? We're not going to send people out there to count heads. So
Well, that's what the fire marshal should do.
they won't go out for every single event.
Well, that's their job, but if
But
they
they
don't do
wouldn't.
it, I don't
They
know.
wouldn't do that. I mean, we don't have that kind. So we're going to hire a fire marshal on taxpayers' dollars to go to the barn Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Well,
That's
they
not
do spot
realistic.
checks. They have maximum posting.
I'm
and they'll
just saying,
check it.
I think that's unrealistic. I know what goes on at the township hall. That's really unrealistic. So, I mean, I agree with Kurt. I mean, if you're going to pass it, if you're having a family, say you're having a family Thanksgiving, I would consider that a small event. Probably have 100 people. Think about it. I have a huge family too. So, we can have 45 people crammed in my little house at Thanksgiving or Christmas. And if they bring a few extra, which they always do, now you're over 50. Are you going to worry about that? I mean, I wouldn't. I can't. Thought it was Kurt or somebody else that said maybe the number of people there's just no way to police it. We just can't. What are we going to do? We're going to go down there and shut down a wedding or a baby shower? That's not happening.
It has
Eddie.
to, there's laws that they have to obey.
Lost you.
But Patty, I understand because where you live I could totally understand where you're coming from. But it has to be site specific. We can't just limit things just on an if come, but we have the power to adjudicate over all these issues at a certain point. And I like I said on Sunday, give people a break, because they are going to need a break. But if there's not people to give a break to, then I think we could be more lenient. But I could totally understand where you're coming, because
Well,
I hate going over there, and I don't even live over there on
Well,
those days.
if you were at the hall and you would see all the complaints we get about so many things, and now we're going to add an event barn in a residential area on maybe possibly a non-paved road. It's with music and alcohol, or a craft show, which I absolutely love. By the way, I would love that. I like the whole idea. I support it. I think it would have to be, for me, on a paved road. It would have to probably have 30 acres or more. I wouldn't limit. I don't.
Well, wouldn't the
It's
acreage,
just me. Again, that you guys, I don't know what the board might love it. Does this go to the board, Brian? It does, because special land use, and they might love it. I'm just giving you my 2 cents. That's all.
but acreage, would that also, if it was the
Well,
dimension,
it would put you
acreage,
farther away
is it a,
than any residential. I mean, at least if you nestled it in. I mean, look at, I just think about the size of our township park, the one on 11 Mile. And that was 20 acres. And that doesn't seem big enough to me. It just doesn't.
is that a square 20 acres?
It was rectangular.
Okay, so that would determine also too, if it was square, rectangle.
I don't know. I'm just, those are my 2 cents. I don't want to rain on anyone's parade. I just
Okay,
understand about chloriding, dirt roads. And I know Lisa mentioned some of I think they're having a lot of problems with these event barns, and that's why there's probably either new rules, or people they don't want that. If you move on acreage, you want to hear that every night. People don't want that. They don't even want a dog barking. We can't even control the dog. So it's just, I just can't support it. That's all. I just can't. Not unless
Right.
it's like on a paved road. So that's my 2 cents. I'm good.
Okay. Brian, what's our next step here?
Well, Lisa and I talked a bit this afternoon, and I think her review of some of the recent case law is probably warranted here, rather than scheduling a public hearing at this point. So maybe we ask her to come back at the next meeting or whenever her schedule allows, and get that information so that we're making sure that we're not being impacted by any recent legal determinations, and then we can go from there. But to Patty's point, it's a text amendment to the ordinance if you decide to move forward. So it does require a public hearing. And then it'll go to the board for 2 readings if it goes that direction. And then after that is when anybody could apply for a special land use and site plan for the use.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Chairman, can I ask Brian a question?
Sure.
Brian, how would our board find out if there's event barns that are successful in the communities? Because the more I hear about this, I think the Sunday 6 p.m. is great, Carl's point. But how would we know, is every event barn in Michigan a problem, or are half of them a problem, or do they have structures, where it's okay? How would we find out? Is there any way to do that?
I don't know off the top of my head, Kurt. Every community deals with them a little bit differently, so it's not like everyone has gone through special land use review. Some have grown organically. So I don't have a good answer for you on that.
I mean, I'm retired now. I don't mind making phone calls. If I had a list of them, or of townships or communities, planning commissions, I wouldn't mind making some phone calls. I would just hate to see us let something slide that could be tremendous if we had the right rules in place, acreage and time, and, you know, it was a win-win, but
We can do some digging and see if we can find out where they're successful and where they aren't. You know, some communities love them, some communities don't. So, but, you know, we can dig in and see if we can find some examples of where they're succeeding and some situations where they're having difficulties.
thank
So,
you.
Mr.
I'd be willing to help.
That'd be excellent.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
So
Mr.
then
Chuck.
at this point, I like the recommendation by Mr. Kesey. Do we table this then? Because apparently there's some issues that need to be checked into. What's our next step now as a board?
Well,
We're not
no,
going to
go
go to a public hearing, so.
I would table the topic if you're not ready to make any determinations. We've got marching orders from staff or for staff.
all right.
I mean, we
Very
want to
good.
do it right, and I'm sure the applicants want it to be right. So apparently we need at least a little more research on it. So then I would be prepared to table AP-20-04 based on the discussion and the fact that the attorney will be looking into some potential or some legal matters that have already arisen.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Town.
if I may. But I also think that you should take to heart with some of the things, for example, that Patty brought up about the paved roads and where she lives and the noise and the size of the property. So, I mean, it's not as easy as it sounded. We really didn't go over a lot here tonight. We really didn't hash things out. I do want to hear from Lisa and everybody when they come back, but there's still a lot of things to go over. You know, we didn't talk about security. We didn't talk about liquor licensing. We didn't talk about the prep kitchen, what actually has to go in there. You say that, okay, it shouldn't be a full-blown kitchen, then what has to go in there? I mean, when you have to do this new text amendment, you got to have it surrounded pretty well, and we haven't done anything. We've just touched the surface. So keep that in mind. That's all I have to say.
All right. Any other comments? All right, Mr. Chuck made a motion to table. Do we have
Support. This
Your
Carl, I
support?
support.
okay, support by Mr. Town to table? Kelly, if you take roll.
Patricia Carconi,
Yes.
Jim Chuck,
Yes.
Stefan Hoffman,
Yeah.
Michael Conflitti,
Yes.
Kurt Radke,
Yes.
Carl Town,
Yes.
Ron Pennington. Ron? Yes, thank you.
All right, very good. Will that be our next meeting, Lisa? Or,
Yeah, we'll target the next meeting if that works for Brian. I don't know if does that work for you, Brian? We can get that on the next meeting. Okay, that's what we'll target.
I'm seeing his head shake. All right, very good. Brian, AP 20-30, Lion Preserve minor PD amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to share a screen here. You may, I believe most of the Planning Commission members were on board when Lion Preserve was approved several years ago as a planned development. It is 53 unit single family homes right on the south side of 10 Mile, just maybe not even a quarter mile east of Griswold Road. Since the project was originally envisioned, it has changed hands. The Toll Brothers company owns the project right now, and you may have noticed they're well into grading and site work on the property. When this was originally approved, there was a playscape proposed here in phase 2 that was to be built with the original phasing of the project. And one of the things that Toll Brothers and Mr. Hanson came to the township and took a look at the target market for the lots, and it became clear to them that they're going to be targeting empty nesters or more established families with this project rather than anticipating young families with kids. And so one of the things that what's in front of you this evening is a modification to the PD to change the playground facilities into a pavilion facility for the residents there. It is a minor amendment, and I think in the future, something like this, we would probably even prefer to treat these administratively. However, the way that the plan development agreement was written, this is a minor amendment that needs planning commission and township board approval. There's no public hearing requirement or anything like that, but it does require your consideration. For minor amendments in our township, there are two criteria that apply. The first being that the project will not adversely impact the initial basis for granting the approval. And number two, that it will not adversely impact the overall plan development, and it continues the intent of the development. In our review of the minor amendment, we've seen no impacts on adjacent properties. This is not going to introduce any additional impacts, be it sound or anything along those lines that would affect neighboring properties. We really do view this as minor, and therefore we would recommend approval of the minor modification. If the Planning Commission agrees this evening, your action would be a recommendation to the Township Board in one way or another. So I can take any questions you might have. The applicant is here this evening if you have specific questions.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Do we need a presentation on this?
I don't
Scott?
think so.
Oh, no.
You did not.
Okay, all right. Any comments?
I'm fine.
I'm fine.
I'm fine.
Carl?
Yeah, I mean, once you look at it, it makes perfect sense.
I'm good.
You know, I don't want to get snake bitten and half the people move in that have kids, but you know, that's just what we take. And that's they're, you know, projecting, they sold out Legacy. So yeah, that's no big shakes to me.
Okay. All right, anyone else?
To your point, Carl, Scott, can you answer, have you sold any lots yet? Or are we too far out?
No, we're actually not open for sale yet. But we have a lot of interest. There's been over, I think, 1,000 inquiries since we put our sign up last fall. So we're expecting things to go really well right away.
I have a question for the applicant real quick. What size homes basically, and what price range?
Yeah, I'll let Andrew answer that. He's our operations.
Okay.
So we will offer 5 floor plans ranging in size from 1,700 square feet to 2,400 square feet. All of them will be master down homes, and they will start in the mid 400s. Our official pricing hasn't been determined or approved by our corporate office yet, but we'll start in the mid 400s.
Any straight ranches or is it
Yeah,
gonna be
yep.
master? You will have
No,
some.
3
Okay.
of the 5 plans will be conventional ranch homes. 2 of the 5 will be master down with living space upstairs as well. So
Very
the
good,
majority of the
thank
plans will be ranches. Yep.
Thank you.
Anything else? Lisa, you have anything to add? No?
No, not on this issue.
Okay, all right. Okay,
I'm prepared to make a recommendation for this one.
please do.
I recommend approving AP-20-30 Line Preserve PD minor amendment based on the McKenna letter. The date on the McKenna letter, does anybody have it?
September 10th.
September 10th, 2020.
Motion by Mr.
I'll
Radke.
support.
That's a
Support.
recommendation to the board.
Recommendation to the board. Support by Ms. Carconi. Okay, any other comments? Kelly, take roll, please.
Sure. Ron Pennington,
Yes.
Stefan Hoffman,
Yes.
Carl Town,
Yes.
Patricia Carconi,
Yes.
Kurt Radke,
Yes.
Michael Complety,
Yes.
Jim Chuck.
Yes.
All right, very good. That was quick. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right. What do we have? Patricia.
Yeah, we had a board meeting, so I'll go through it very quickly. We had it on Tuesday, September 8th, because Monday was Labor Day. So we had, I think we had a good discussion. We had some call to the public, and the township board is going to be looking into a hazardous waste day, township-wide trash pickup. And then Lisa came up with a really great idea for the park, like a drive-in theater movie. So those are things that I think would be very cool for our township, and we're going to look into those. So those were after we reviewed all the reports. Under unfinished business, we had Lion Crossing PD for Watermark, and that finally they had their 2 hearings. So that is approved. And we did speak to them today, and they said they're going to go gangbusters. They're hoping to break ground in February. We thought that seemed a little early, but depending on the weather. So I hope good luck to them. They did a good job with the crossing. Remember, you guys were concerned about the crossing from one side to the other. They really did improve that. So I knew you would be happy with that. So under new business, we had consideration to approve the Lyon Township personnel policies and procedures. We have been working on this for like a year. And in Lisa's office, Laura is, she does the like personnel stuff. So she helped us out really greatly, and we adopted finally a personnel policy and procedures for the employees, minus the fire department. They have their own. So we also had an appointment to fill the Open Park and Recreation Advisory Board, and that was Erin. Oh gosh, you know her name. Yeah, Rick. What is it, Ricker? I can't think. What's the Ricker and? Anyway, she belongs to them. I can't think of their last name. But then we had, so we appointed her to the parks. Oh, Erin New, that's who it is. And then the supervisor appointed 2 people to the Downtown Development Authority, both with really great energy. I think they'll do a great job. Paula Ruffin, who has the chiropractor business, and the Big Coffee lady. And she has, can't think of her first name, but they were both appointed. Then we had the consideration of the approval of the L 4029 millage rates. We will hold a public hearing when those millage rates for tax rates, when we have the budget, but we need to approve the rates ahead of time because the Board of Commissioners for Oakland County likes to approve them. We had consideration to adopt the 2020 capital improvement program. We removed that because we had enough people had some more questions they wanted to send to Brian and Leslie.
Interrupt you, Patty.
We awarded the Township Hall renovation and expansion contract award for both the police, the sheriff's station below, and the Township Hall. Into that, we are extremely blessed and excited that the board gave us this opportunity to expand the hall. And we picked A.R. Brower out of Dexter. We also had, we awarded a contract to resurface part of the Huron Valley Trail. We've broken it up in 3 sections. The first, we did award the contract. It will start at 11 Mile and go to Martindale Road. So we're really excited for that. That's going to start this fall. We also awarded Tanglewood a bike path repair award. We awarded that. We need to raise the concrete and pour new sidewalks, so that's getting done. We considered the design and construction standards. I think that was our first reading, I believe. We had the consideration of the agreement for the CARES Act distribution between Oakland County and the township. We had that. We had the consideration and resolution of approving authorizing an executive interlocal agreement between Oakland County and us for the CARES Act, so it was 2. We also had the consideration of the Lyon Township purchase policy, which we approved to that. We've been working on that for a few months. And we had the consideration for 2020 to rescind the local state of emergency that the board gave to John during COVID. We feel the board's back and in good shape, and they can do that. So with that, I'm done with my report. Any questions?
Very good. Thank you. Questions? No? Thank you, Patty.
You're welcome.
Brian, anything?
I'll just add, I did talk with Leslie and I met with the board members that had a few questions on the CIP. They have requested a couple modifications to timelines. You know, we have a anticipated start year column for our projects there. They asked for some clarifications on some other items, and then clean up in terms of typos, things like that were identified as well. So I don't think any of them are major. I don't think any of the changes warrant bringing that back to the Planning Commission, so I don't intend to. But we are going to make those updates and take that back to the board for the October meeting. So if you have any questions or want to see an update of the plan, it will be in that packet, but we'll have that ready in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Thanks, Brian. I know, Mr. Chuck, you had 758.
I'm not, can I say something?
Yes.
I just want to make a formal apology for the language I used at the last PC meeting. And I used a derogatory name towards the architecture, not against anybody, but I was under a lot of drugs influence and my patience with vinyl siding grew. And I apologize for using any language. I just want everyone to know that. But it wasn't meant to anybody. I just saw this architecture and I am passionate about it as much as the Mr. what's his name last week about vinyl siding. And nothing, you know, I just want the improvement of this and the livelihood of this city to grow. And I didn't see that in that architecture. So I apologize. And I just want everyone to know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan.
Accepted. Very well. Very good.
Thank you.
Well,
All right.
I guess I'll make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
We'll support it.
Motion by Mr. Chuck, support by Mr. Radke. Kelly, take roll.
Carl Town,
Yes.
Kurt Radke,
Yes.
Ron Pennington,
Yes.
Stefan Hoffman,
Yes.
Michael Complety,
Yes.
Jim Chuck,
Yes.
Patricia Carconi.
Yes.
All right. Very good. Thank you, everybody.
I will have cider and donuts at our next meeting.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know how we're going to do that
Yeah.
virtually.
Not happening.
451 Cypress Drive.
Yeah.
Patty, are we going to get in and you think by October at least get one meeting with cider and donuts?
I don't think so. I think,
Oh, that's good.
well, she extended the state of emergency, which
Yeah.
extends
Oh, I know that. Yeah.
in-person meetings. So we'll just have to see what the governor says.
Yep.
All right.
Not the same not seeing you guys, you know, it just
Well-
isn't, but
Yeah. So we can't even social distance within the chambers, huh?
no, well, we'll have to figure that out, but no,
Yeah.
not right now.
Because we did do tax review board, but there was only 4 of us.